go back to the College of Education and completed her Bachelor's of Arts in English. And she majored in linguistics and minoring in fine arts at the University of Guyana. She has a Master of Arts in English Language and a Doctor of Educational Leadership in Higher Education from the University of the West Indies. Her academic and professional experiences have provided a foundation that fostered an interest in the systems of education at all levels and a deep appreciation for language, linguistic, literature, cultural diversity, artifacts. Her research interests includes education policies, language policies in Guyana and the Caribbean, teaching English as a second language, and popular culture, cultural identities, artifacts, agendas, and policy. I now call on Dr. Carolyn Cummings to present to us her work.
Thank you very much, and good morning. It's still morning, right, to everyone? And please bear with me as I familiarize myself with this. Okay, so yes. So this morning, I am going to share with you some of the findings of my research on leadership roles, advancing a strategic cultural agenda at a state university in Guyana. And for the sake of context and because of time, I have had to try to condense my presentation. And so I hope that I am able to articulate very clearly, or as clearly as possible, what I need to articulate in order for you to understand the project. So the purpose of this research was to examine the role that university leaders could play in advancing a strategic cultural agenda that is of national and institutional significance. And so in this research, I looked at the perspectives of university leaders and faculty about their understanding or an approach about setting an agenda, the cultural agenda, right? And so I talked to university leaders and faculty about not just about the approach, but about the significance of establishing a strategic cultural agenda which can be of national and institutional significance. And so for the context, for those of you who know, Guyana is a multi-ethnic, multicultural state in which we have several different kinds of conflicts, social conflicts, political and other kinds of issues. And also, it's a country or a state where there is not much or there is inadequate attention given to cultural education and by extension, cultural agendas and cultural policies. And so my research tries to problematize these issues. So it looks at the diminished interest in cultural planning and the fact that there is need for strategic planning for a cultural agenda. But even though the research is centered within the university with the intention of trying to narrow the focus, really, this is a problem that exists outside of university, and a problem where the university can have some kind of influence, right? And so the research problematized this diminished interest and the need for strategic planning and the absence of, see, I haven't gotten it yet, right? This thing is a little sensitive. All right, so the absence of strategic planning and the absence of research and scholarship toward cultural planning at the university. So my articulation of the problem is my attempt to locate the university within this problem, right? Within these issues of lack of research and lack of cultural planning. And so now the research questions were, I'm going to just put all of them up there, and then I'm going to read them. What is the university's leadership response to cultural agenda and cultural studies in Guyana? What is the role of university leaders in advancing a strategic cultural agenda at the university? How are university leaders positioned to frame a cultural agenda that contributes to branding and national identity, the creative industry and creative economy of Guyana? And in what ways have the traditional and current agenda of the Department of Language and Cultural Studies added value to the university? And what are some approaches toward setting an agenda for culture? And then I would like to define very briefly what I mean by a cultural agenda, because I think that many of you in the room and those of you who might be in the virtual space, you may not understand what I mean by a cultural agenda. So a cultural agenda is it's a strategic plan of action and activities that provide the platform from which agents, such as me, right, might articulate the important role of culture to a community. And it involves interests in studying philosophies of cultures and other distinctive characteristics of national cultural groups. It also includes the agency they have in articulating their importance. And it also involves how these intertwine with cultural studies to educate and preserve cultural heritage. And so for the theoretical framework, I applied King Don's multiple stream agenda setting framework. And this is a key policy that is used in public policy, as well as in communication and political domains, and it can be applied to the cultural domain. So agenda setting is a process by which problems are identified. Yes, sorry, problems are identified and they can be advanced to other levels, right, where they can be advocated for, or where, we can sell the ideas to other policy makers and other important personnel, and the agenda can be advanced and policy can be created, and we can have all that we want. So first we have the problem stream, and in this stream, it's like where we are at right now, where I'm at right now, where, okay, I have identified a problem or an issue that is worthy of being addressed. And so we could have discourse, we could have research such as this, we could have the conversations, we could have, various activities that might bring to the fore and raise awareness about such issues and problems. And then this is the problem stream, right? And so then this, because of its importance and salience, other leaders or policy makers might advance it. So it will enter the policy stream, and in the policy stream, the professionals or those who are interested and who have the agency or the power to make a difference could advocate and make proposals and create initiatives that can serve to advance whatever agenda was framed in the problem stream. And then further, at another level, political personnel, and when I say political, I don't necessarily mean politics as in at the national level, for example, but political in the context of leadership. So for example, that can exist right within the university, right? And so my application of this framework is from within the university. But if you notice, you look at it will be your right, you will see that there are still opportunities after the politics streams where the personnel might advance this agenda and create policy decisions. For example, let's say there is an initiative that comes out of my department or some other department, then university leaders can adopt this agenda and support it. And then it can further be actioned and advocated for at the national level, right? So this is why I use this framework to apply in this particular research. So for the methodology, I use a qualitative participatory framework in which the researchers are also the researched. They are the people who are being researched, and they are participants engaged in the process, right? And I use purposive sampling because I needed to identify the key personnel who are interested and also who are part of this problem or part of the process, and so that they are able to answer the necessary questions. I use purposive sampling, and the methods of data collection were, I did interviews with university leaders and focus groups with faculty, and specifically faculty from the Department of Language and Cultural Studies. Now, like I said, in an effort to focus the study, I've had to, contain it to the department, but this is a study that could have much more widespread impact in the university and in the community. So I use a reflexive thematic analysis approach, and this is where I'm just gonna rush these parts, right? Because I really want to get to data. It's not working. Oh. Yeah, sorting, I sorted and I coded and I coded and I thematized, right? I generated teams and then I refined those teams reflexively. Now, the most, or perhaps the most popular finding is that the university has demonstrated a commitment to cultural studies and some commitment to cultural planning. And this is shown in its efforts to employ specialists in cultural studies, to have consultations for African or Indian and Indian cultural studies units. There has also been a recent implementation of university, at the university in the human relations course, which can be taken by the university community, whether you're a lecturer or student, right? And this speaks to aspects of our cultural heritage and how that can impact us as the university and the nation to create tolerance and other kinds of things. And then there have been improvement of its creative arts space within my department, and also a recent approval of the university for establishment of the Guyanese languages unit. So these and other initiatives suggest and indicate that the university has had certain response, and there is interest and some commitment to cultural studies and cultural planning. However, despite that, there is the belief by all the participants that the response of the university, the leadership response, that is, of the university, the cultural agenda and cultural planning is inadequate. And these are the reasons that have been cited for this inadequate response. We have competing interests and relegation of arts and culture to like performative, to be performative or for decorative purposes. And there is a level of inaction of the Department of Language and Cultural Studies. That's my department, right? Right? There's a level of inaction of the Department of Language and Cultural Studies toward cultural planning. I believe because there is some kind of inertia, like an apathy towards, pushing forward things, maybe because of experiences and whatever issues they have in the system, right? And then another reason expressed for the inadequate response of the university is that there is a need for more cohesion and support from the university and from faculty leaders. And also, there is a belief by some that there is an absence of enough trained personnel. So, another aspect of my finding would be that I'm not sure what's happening, but anyway, yes. So if we look at the status of cultural planning, we will see, okay, first there is interest, as I said, and there is awareness, and there is commitment to a few things. However, there is, I don't know what's happening. All right, but I'm going to leave it there. So, however, there is an inadequate response, and because of the reasons I outlined in the previous slide, and then, but there are efforts to plan. For example, we have the human relations course, and we have the university press, we have public lectures, and we also have the Vice Chancellor's Blueprint 2040, which contains some suggestions about things that can be initiated and actioned for a future up to 2040. However, generally, there is a response that is unsustainable and a response that is often very reactive to things and issues that occur in our society. So when these things come up, we say, okay, well, we don't do this, we don't do that, we don't do the research, we don't do the work, and then we go back and we lie down, and then we, and then, but we just, we're just reactive, we are not proactive towards, building this cultural agenda, right? Or at least trying to imagine what that means or what it can be. And so coming out from the data, we realize that, or it is confirmed that faculty are the cultural experts, right? And they are the people or the personnel who frame the agenda. And faculty leaders are agenda advocates. So while the faculty frames the agenda, it's pushed forward, then the faculty leaders can advocate, and the university leaders support this agenda. And then, like I showed you earlier from the theoretical framework, this can be advanced at the national level where national decisions can make, or decisions can be made at the national level. But notice, all are advocates. So this, even though I'm saying that the cultural experts are the faculty, anybody in this chain can be a cultural expert, depending on your interest in the work that you do. And for example, our own Vice Chancellor is a cultural expert, right? And she has done tremendous work in this regard, in various ways, in aspects of culture, right? And so the cultural experts can come from anywhere in this, and anybody can frame the agenda, and then it can be advocated and supported where necessary. So again, what we have seen here is that the cultural agenda takes place, or should take place, from the bottom up. So where we've had complaints and issues about there being inactivity and leaders not responding, what this has been discovered is that the leaders do not respond, or have not responded, because the cultural experts are not framing any agendas, right? And so what it says is that the agenda comes from the bottom up. There is a bottom up approach to leadership, right? From the bottom, you have cultural initiatives, initiatives from cultural experts, and then this can be taken further and become faculty and initiatives, and they can become university initiatives, and then it can become national initiatives. Now, of course, this is a whole fairy tale, right? But you get the picture. The idea that I'm trying to sell to you is that this can occur if the cultural experts are able to frame an agenda and articulate an agenda and really start something from the bottom that is meaningful and worthy of attention. And then, summary of my findings, then just generally, I'm just going to rush through this, but because I've said this before, so that there is interest and commitment to cultural studies, but there is an inadequate leadership response. The response is often unsustainable because it is reactive. There is a leadership crisis, and this is specifically in the department because the agenda does not come out or enough of that agenda is not framed, right, and articulated. And the university has the capacity and is well positioned, especially in this time. And the university is a national actor, and that means that it must have some degree of alignment, even though it has some autonomy. There must be some degree of alignment with the state. And we should demonstrate within the university thought leadership towards, in this case, well, generally, right, and for different topics, but in this case, for a cultural agenda. And we've discovered and identified cultural intellectuals as the faculty, and they are leaders. They are leaders in their right. So the people who I've talked with are, whether they're faculty or university faculty leaders or administrative leaders at the university, they are all leaders in their various capacities, and they can do something, right? And also that cultural studies is an instrument of cultural agenda setting. And again, what comes out here is that the nucleus of, or the main part of the cultural agenda setting process is the cultural intellectuals, right? They frame the agenda and then it could blossom, right? This is just a nice, pretty diagram that can show you where this thing starts and then where it can end up. So implications. So we have implications for, again, of course, cultural agenda setting, like I've explained throughout. And, but there are also implications for agenda denial. And I think that very often maybe there is inactivity. And the faculty might be skeptical because of this agenda denial. But what I have discovered is that this denial may occur because faculty is not diligent enough or able to articulate their agendas or their thoughts or ideas effectively. And if they're able to, instead of the fretting and the fighting and, if they're able to articulate their agenda very meaningfully and professionally, then there may be the opportunity for agenda approval is, is higher. And then we have opportunities for practice as well, because if we have the agenda, or if we have things that we are pushing forward, then we are engaged in our practice as cultural experts. And of course, this research just scratches the surface, and therefore there are more opportunities for research and for policy. And finally, recommendations. So we have recommendations for practice. Number one, introducing cultural studies, which we have already begun, and repackaging and remarketing, and strategic planning, and specifically for cultural agenda or cultural initiatives. And the university needs to demonstrate thought leadership in these ways by also having other initiatives. And also, we need to encourage a culture of research, and really, really need to emphasize a culture of research. This brings me to the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cummins, for that very insightful and well-learned presentation, leadership roles